Hello there, people of the internet. This right here is a continuation of a little mini-series I have going on this channel talking about certain calibers and their pros and cons for an SHTF situation. So, this is one that everybody's been talking about. This is one that literally every prepper goes to whenever it involves the end of the world. The humble, simple little 22 long rifle. Everybody loves this thing or hates this thing. There is no in between. You're either a simp for the cartridge or you have decided that the cartridge is not worth even looking at. So let's talk about some pros and some cons. This is the same exact story that you guys have heard 1,000 times before, but hey, people want to hear the same thing over and over and over and over again. I know, myself included. That's why I watch the same kind of content over and over and over. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about some of the pros and cons of 22 long rifle if you're going to use it for an end-of-the-world cartridge. First off, let's talk about some cons because they're pretty self-evident. 22 long rifle is very underpowered. Obviously, this right here is a tiny little bullet. Yeah, there's not going to be a whole lot of power behind that thing. Can it still get the job done? Yes, with proper shot placements. You can, of course, take something out or somebody out with a 22 long rifle if you absolutely had to. There's always going to be somebody who says, so many people were killed by 22 long rifling. Yeah, that's because it is, one of the most predominant cartridges in the world. The 22 long rifle is absolutely everywhere. Literally everywhere. And of course, since this round is so numerous absolutely everywhere, even like people who aren't gun people have a 22 long rifle if they have a gun. So just with how numerous this round is, yeah, that's one of the primary reasons why this round has been used to take out so many people around the world. So can it be done? Yeah, it can absolutely be done, but the amount of energy transferred onto target is not substantial enough for me to believe that this will immediately stop a threat. Typically, whenever you are using something to protect yourself against something else, you want that threat to be immediately stopped. And although something like this would likely take somebody out with proper shot placement, the odds of them being immediately stopped in, whatever situation it is that they're doing is actually pretty substantially low, unless you manage to hit like the primary pump system to immediately stop that, or the primary computer system to immediately stop that. If you hit anywhere else, then hey, guess what? This right here might do the job, but it might be 15 minutes down the road, long after the guy who you're trying to stop has already caused the issues that he was looking to cause. So definitely not something I want to rely on in that regard. Another big con behind the 22 long rifle, obviously, since it's such a small underpowered cartridge, it's not exactly a long range cartridge. I mean, typically your average shooter can run these things out to about 150 yards if they really try to. There are some exceptional shooters out there who can go out to 300 yards with a 22 long rifle. But just because of the lack of velocity and lack of mass, wind deflection and gravity are really going to take a toll with the 22 long rifle out at far distances. That's just the name of the game. That's how projectiles are as they travel through the air. Typically, if you get yourself the bulk ammunition, the just standard run-of-the-mill 22 long rifle ammo that is nice and cheap, which is what people go to 22 long rifle for, if you get the cheap bulk stuff, it's going to travel at around 1,000 to 1,200 feet per second, depending on your barrel length and depending on your setup. And typically, it's going to be a 40 grain projectile, 38 to 40 grain, somewhere around that ballpark. And that's just not a very long range effective projectile. That slow velocity and that lightweight bullet, and they're just gonna be blown all around by the wind, even a nice simple breeze by what we see right here. So not a long range cartridge and not a powerhouse of a cartridge. However, the other things that I have to say about 22 long rifle are absolutely pros. One, it is cheap. You can get a lot of 22 long rifle for not a lot of money in comparison to other cartridges that are out there. Like, for example, another very cheap round to have is 9mm. 9mm is significantly more powerful than 22 long rifle in terms of energy transfer onto the target. However, 9mm is also more expensive. Typically, right now in 2023, the prices for 22 long rifle, we're in April of 2023, things might change in a month or two or 10 months or, insert your choice of decision making right here. As of right now, you can go out and get yourself one of those bulk boxes of 500 plus rounds for like $40 to $50, depending on the brand and location that you're at. And that right there is a lot of ammo for not a lot of money. 1,000 rounds for about $80 to $90 of 22 long rifle, whereas 1,000 rounds of just cheapo, bare minimum, bottom of the barrel, budget tier 9mm, 1,000 rounds is going to cost you about $250 to $300, depending on shipping, taxes, who it is that you're going through, etc., etc. So 22 long rifle definitely has the budget-orientated option in its favor. However, that being said, you get what you pay for. The stuff that is budget oftentimes travels quite slow at around 1,000 feet per second, depending on barrel length, depending on your setup. And it's not going to be very accurate. The bullet composition is not going to be all that precise, not all that well done, so you're going to have some deviations and whatnot. You're just going to lose accuracy. The amount of powder inside of the projectiles themselves, the cartridges themselves, is going to be not as reliable of an amount as some of your higher end stuff. Now, if you want to go and get yourself like, I don't know, some CCI Stingers or something like that, those travel at around 1,500 feet per second out of a long barrel. And so you're going to get significantly more velocity out of that version of 22 long rifle, but it's going to cost you more money. I imagine that with that increased velocity, that's going to be more accurate out at longer ranges than your slower velocity 22 long rifle. And that's just how ballistics work. That round is moving faster, so it's going to spend less time in the air, so gravity is going to affect it less and pull it down less, simply because it is spending less time in the air. But like I said, those are going to be more expensive. And if you're going to spend more money on 22 long rifle, that kind of negates the cheap factor. So that's definitely one of the pros and cons with 22 long rifle. The cheap stuff is cheap, but hey, it's also cheap. And the expensive stuff is expensive. Hey, it's expensive. That typically means that it is more appropriately made and better ammunition. But that kind of, like I said, negates the whole cheap factor. However, another pro that the 22 long rifle has is you can carry a lot of this stuff because it is small and lightweight. You can carry 1,000 rounds of 1,000 rounds of 22 long rifle and not even notice it. Keep it in your backpack. But if you carry 1,000 rounds of something like 223 or 7.62 by 39, you're going to decide to yourself, hey, I don't want to carry this much ammunition. Now, 22 long rifle, I guess I will add this as a con. It does burn dirty. It is a dirty round and a not very reliable round. And if you don't clean your firearm, then odds are you will have to suffer the consequences of a dirty burning round, and you'll probably end up getting malfunctions. I wouldn't really call that a con of 22 long rifle because, hey, you want to clean your firearm anyway. And every firearm, as it dirties, will definitely start to cause malfunctions anyway, especially if it is an automatic feeding system. 22 long rifle, just with its nature, tends to be a little bit less reliable, especially if you are getting the bulk stuff. If you get more expensive, better quality ammunition, then you might have better times with reliability, but I have out here cheap bulk stuff, and I have me a revolver to run them through. This right here is a Heritage Rough Rider. I do want to say that depending on your system, if you get yourself a 22 long rifle like this right here, then, well, you can kind of negate the issues with the power behind a 22 long rifle, because although this stuff right here is not going to be very powerful, this cheapo stuff out of this nice short cylinder might be traveling at around 900 to 1,000 feet per second, 40 grain projectile. It's still not something I want to get hit by, don't get me wrong, but it's not exactly a powerhouse of a round. However, if I were to take this cylinder out and throw in a 22 Magnum cylinder and just kind of have the cylinders to where I can swap them out based off of the situation I'm in and determining the ammo type that I need, 22 Magnum is quite the cartridge. That is a revolver that I would not feel bad about using to be able to protect myself. Now, 22 Magnum is going to be more powerful, and we'll go ahead and cover that in another video, the pros and cons of 22 Magnum. But that is an option depending on what system you have with a 22 long rifle. If you get yourself something like this, then just swap it out for 22 mag. However, this right here is just 22 long rifle that I have in this thing. Oh, God. I gotta shoot this thing more. That was no recoil. I've been out here shooting big, heavy guns all day. And I tell you what, this thing right here is absolutely a delight to shoot. And it's accurate too. I'm just clinking my steel. We're at about 40 yards. Now this isn't something that I would, bet my life on in terms of having complete accuracy out at very long distances. I'm not going to go hunting squirrels with this thing at 100 yards. But if I had somebody, some sort of two-legged creature out there trying to cause me issues, and they were at 40 yards or so, I wouldn't feel bad about using this thing to make them stop doing what they're doing. Yeah, they talk about the stopping power of 22 long rifle, and I'm like, hey, yeah, I know it doesn't have quote-unquote much stopping power, but if I shoot you in the leg, you're probably going to stop doing whatever it is that you're doing. Another thing I really like about the 22 is that whenever I come out here to make videos on it, and I have just a bunch of loose random 22 inside of my pocket, it is really easy to carry this ammo. Like, I'll just get me a little handful of this stuff, and I'll walk out here, and I'll be like, yeah, I just got little shells in my pocket, 22 long rifle. Let's go ahead and make us a quick video. Whereas if I come out here with like a 8mm Mauser or something, I got this big old pocket full of shells, and it's just very inconvenient. Something that I don't have to worry about with 22 long rifle. It's also good for training if you have somebody in your group that has never messed with guns before. If they need a nice light recoiling, low noise gun, definitely a good option to have. Since it is a low power, nice and quiet round as well, if you decide to use it as, let's just say, if you decide to take into account the quiet factor behind it and how if you're in an area that maybe you're not supposed to be in, the odds of somebody hearing a 22 long rifle go off, especially if they're not in close proximity, is actually quite low, especially if you're in an area like I'm in and there's just dense forest absolutely everywhere. So bear that in mind. Since it is small and weak, it is also nice and quiet. Especially if you get yourself some subsonic stuff. This is obviously not subsonic stuff. This right here is very much supersonic. And that is my 22 long rifle. Lots of pros, lots of cons. I wouldn't trust it for, actual combat situations, but I would not feel bad about using it for survivalist situations. I recommend, as a matter of fact, with my particular setup, what I have going on with my setup is I have my fighting rifle, if I have to take care of business and do whatever it is I have to do, but I also have my survivalist rifle, and I'd feel like 22 long rifle would not be something that you would want as a fighting rifle. Yeah, you could use it, but if somebody has an AR and they're 300 yards away, guess what? They have a really good weapon to be able to take you out, but if you have a 22 long rifle, oh boy, the odds are not in your favor. So you could use it for a survivalist situation. You could use it for, it's definitely got its roles, don't get me wrong. And in my particular case, I actually have a 22 long rifle that I have set aside with some ammunition that I have set aside for survivalist situations in the event that I have to go out and gather myself some game or something. As a matter of fact, literally here on this property, I was reined in for like a week. And at that particular time, I didn't have a means to go out to the store and get the things that I needed to get. So rather than go through some of my food stockpiles, which is why we have food stockpiles, rather than open up some of those things, which I have very nicely sealed, I literally just grabbed my 22 long rifle and I traveled around the forest right here, and I got squirrels and pigs and all sorts of stuff with that thing. And that's how I kept myself fed for a week. And it was awesome. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share, description below. Link to all sorts of stuff. Go check that out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you all in the next episode. I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.